Welcome to Chemistry 2, Unit 4, Chemical Kinetics. So this is video number 1. So we're going to introduce chemical kinetics in this video. So kinetics maybe thinks you or has you thinking about movement, and in a way that's true with this. In chemical kinetics, it's a study of the rates of chemical reaction. So how fast does a reaction proceed? How can we influence rate? So we also look at the factors that affect rates and the sequences of steps by which reactions occur. So all of those deal with kinetics, and this is a rather long unit, but everything kind of ties into one another. So if we look at 4 factors that affect reaction rate, you can think of a lot of different examples of these. So we're just going to put them and categorize them into different means. So the first one that you might think about is something from bio class when you talked about enzymes and how enzymes can help speed up reactions. So those are classified as catalysts. And we'll talk about those later on towards the end of the chapter and how they influence and change reaction rate. But we can also have things that act in the opposite of a catalyst, and those are called inhibitors. A lot of pharmaceuticals work with inhibitors. So we end up with different things happening that can block a reaction from happening. The second is temperature. So thinking back to how temperature can influence a reaction. For most substances, if we increase the temperature, we increase the rate. So we end up with the molecules moving faster, which means that they can interact with each other more because they're traveling faster and can hit into each other. So that's looking at the molecular and atomic level, that's how this influences it. And we'll look at that mathematically later on in the chapter. The concentration of the reactants. So if we have more of something, there's more chances of it interacting with something else. And the last one is surface area. We're really not going to talk about that one other than here, but if you increase the surface area, you increase the rate. And one example is rusting. If something rusts, it happens on the outside of a piece of metal. And that process takes a long time for that entire piece of metal to turn into rust. But if we took that piece of metal and would grind it up, it would rust a lot faster because we increase the surface area that can react with the oxygen in the air. And that's how a hand warmer works. That's powdered iron that's in there, and it's rusting, and that is a very exothermic reaction, so it gives off heat. But what is a reaction rate? So the reaction rate is how quickly something changes over time. And for us, that something in chemistry is going to be concentration. So how fast does the concentration of something change over time? And for us, we're going to use molarity, or moles of a substance over liters. If you remember, the symbol for that is a capital M. And because it's this over time, we end up with some different units that are possible. So we could have moles over liter dot time, or moles dot liter to the negative 1 dot time to the negative 1, or capital M over time, or M dot time to the negative 1. Those are all equal to one another. It's just different ways to write them, and you will see them in all different ways throughout this unit. Time could be in seconds, it could be in hours, it could be in years. So the next video is going to start looking at how we calculate rate.